Hi everyone, welcome to the next vlog for BDI Resourcing. Today we're going to talk a little bit about postgraduate qualifications. So what are they, and do I need one to apply for my GMC registration, and what implications for finding my job in the UK? Right, what is a postgraduate qualification? Well, obviously that is a qualification that you're going to do after your undergraduate qualification, so your MBBS or your basic medical degree. In the UK, when you get to around sort of ST3 level, or you're maybe 2-3 years into your specialty, you would sit a postgraduate exam. So depending on your specialty, that will be membership with the Royal College, so it could be MCEM, MRCP, FRCR, MRCPCH, whatever it might be depending on your specialty, and those qualifications are recognised by the GMC across the world. So obviously if you're overseas and you do a UK recognised Royal College qualification, then that gives you access to apply for the GMC, provided you meet the other criteria like the language qualifications. There is a list of other postgraduate qualifications. Overseas in places like Pakistan, FCPS is recognised in a couple of different specialties. In South Africa, there are other recognised postgraduate specialty certificates that are recognised. So depending on where you are, have a look through the list and you can see whether or not you have something that's relevant already, or maybe you want to make a decision about whether or not you want to sit for that rather than going down the PLAB route. But we'll put a link into this video and you can have a look and see whether or not your qualifications are relative yet. So obviously the main reason that you're going to do this qualification might be for professional development, just to further your knowledge within a particular field, but the main one for most IMGs is that they want access to the medical register so they can get a license to work in the UK. So what's the benefit of applying through that route rather than the PLAB route? There are a couple of different things to consider, and again the specialty experience will vary by doctor and by country, and that will have an impact on where you can enter the UK, so what grade you would enter at. If you are a more senior doctor overseas and you sit PLAB, the chances are that it might be a little bit harder to find a job. Hospitals might be a little bit more picky about whether or not they call you to an interview. The more senior they are, or the more senior you are within your specialty, the better it is to sit a postgraduate qualification that's recognised. Obviously, apart from the GMC registration that I've mentioned already, the main reason is that UK hospitals and clinicians want to see a baseline of your knowledge. They want to know that what you've done is relative. So if you've done, let's use medicine as an example, if you've done MRCP, you've got membership with the Royal College of Physicians, then the doctors in the UK know that you are practicing to a particular level within your clinical practice. So they have done that exam themselves. They know what kind of is involved in the preparation and what you have to do to get through that exam, and it just kind of guarantees that when you arrive in the department, you've already got a baseline of clinical skill. If you've done, say for example, you're in India and you've done your DNB, that's not recognised by the GMC, but the other problem that you have is that doctors in the UK don't know about the training routes in other countries, and so it doesn't give them a good idea of a benchmark of where your clinical suitability is. So our advice is that if you are more senior, if you've moved beyond that sort of 3-4 years within your field, it's much better in terms of your job prospects to sit a postgraduate qualification that's recognised. If not a UK Royal College, it's certainly something that's recognised as equivalent by the GMC, as that will help you when it comes to sending your CV out and getting interest to organise interviews. Okay, so what if you're a junior doctor? What if you've only got a couple of years of experience in your field? What are the implications for not doing a postgraduate qualification? Well, again, the reality is that if you've done PLAB, that should give an idea of a basic understanding of medical English. So the PLAB exam is designed so that if a doctor arrives in the UK, the GMC can be assured that you've got the same clinical skill set as a junior doctor in the UK. So for the more junior doctors, obviously it doesn't matter as much when it comes to sort of postgraduate qualification versus the PLAB route. Where it becomes a little bit tricky is if you're kind of on the cusp of that sort of 3 years experience in your specialty. Do I sit PLAB? Do I pursue the Royal College route? Obviously that is a bit more time consuming, there's a bit more cost involved. How quickly do you want to come to the UK? There's a number of different factors that will be determined by your personal circumstance that will influence which route you go down. From a purely job seeking point of view, if you are going to go down the PLAB route and you do have maybe 1 or 2 years experience in your field, it is better if you've at least sat one part of a postgraduate qualification in addition to the PLAB. So maybe if I know we used medicine before. Let's use emergency medicine as an example. Maybe if you've done a couple of years within A&E and you've gone down to the PLAB to get your registration to come to the UK, if you have done MChem Part A or MChem Primary as it now is, or MChem Part B or Intermediate or the OSCE, any component that you can add to your CV where you've done part of something that is recognised in the UK as part of that emergency training curriculum is going to be more beneficial. So if there is any way that you can bolster your experience, if there's any way that you can sit those exams that don't require you to come to the UK, most of the sort of theory aspects can be done in different test locations around the world, then definitely much better to do that. Alright, so we kind of talked about the advantages of having the postgraduate qualification, access to more interviews. You may get offered a slightly higher salary, put you above other applicants who are applying for the same job maybe, but there are a couple of drawbacks to going down the postgraduate route as well. I think the main one for a lot of you will be the time that it takes to go through them. Obviously there are only certain test dates within each qualification each year, and there are only a certain number of test centres around the world where you can sit in and be approved. So I guess the time taken, if you make a decision 2 years into your training that you want to move to the UK to finish it here, then it might be another year, 2 years until you can get through the postgraduate qualification route to really, you know, set yourself apart on your CV and get access to the GMC register. When it comes to specialties like radiology, especially the FRCR Part 2B exam, there's a long waiting list. There's a ballot which takes place so that it's not as easy to access the practical element. You know, the first sitting opportunities will be given to UK doctors, and then if there are spaces left, they'll be sort of distributed to the international doctors as and when they come up. And I know of doctors waiting, you know, a year, 2 years just to get a place on that final exam. I guess at that stage there's no guarantees either, because the clinical level that you are expected to be working at is a little bit higher, and the pass rates for the exams are obviously a lot lower as well. It may take you a couple of different sittings to get through the exam, especially the practical element. So the time taken, I mean, again, it comes down to your personal situation, what your sort of push-pull motivators are for coming to the UK. Definitely, as I say, the advantage is that you will have more opportunity, but if you are on a time scale, you have something, a contract maybe that you're coming to the end of, it means you have to move in a certain amount of time. It can't always be possible to go down that route, so that can be a disadvantage. I guess the other main one is cost. Obviously the PLAB exam, you do need to come to the UK to sit the second part of it, and there is a cost involved with going through that, or going through a revision course, or maybe coming to London and doing one of the PLAB revision routes that they have there, but it's not as much as the Royal College qualifications. And again, maybe we'll post a link to the blog article that we've written about what the different costs are and how you go about applying for the different sort of training routes in the UK. But largely those are the only two disadvantages, the time and the money, and that comes down to, again, your own personal situation and whether or not it's convenient for you in amongst all of your current work to be sitting that exam and saving money to make that expenditure. At the end of the day, PLAB will get you your GMC registration, postgraduate qualification will get you GMC registration. It just depends on how senior you are, how much experience you've got, and you know, ultimately what factors affect how quickly you can get to the UK. So both good routes, but take-home message, I guess, is that the postgraduate qualification is going to be much more beneficial when it comes to getting your CV out and organising interviews for you. Thanks very much for watching. We'll be back soon again with another vlog. In the meantime, if there's anything we can help you with, if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch. Thank you.